Benedict Cumberbatch's latest comments about Doctor Strange 3 are sparking a lot of excitement, especially because they hint at the long-awaited return to the Dark Dimension. This eerie, otherworldly place made its debut in the first Doctor Strange movie back in 2016, but it was only shown briefly. Now, based on where things left off at the end of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, it seems like the third installment might finally dive deep into this strange and powerful realm ruled by Dormammu. And honestly, that's got me intrigued, because the Dark Dimension has so much potential the MCU hasn't tapped into yet. In the first film, we met Caecilius, played by Mads Mikkelsen, who tried to merge Earth with the Dark Dimension in order to achieve eternal life. His plan ultimately failed when Doctor Strange managed to trap Dormammu in a time loop and bargain for Earth's safety. Dormammu agreed to leave Earth alone and dragged Caecilius and his followers into the Dark Dimension. That was the last we saw of it. But now, with Benedict Cumberbatch teasing what's next for the Sorcerer Supreme, it feels like we're finally going back, and this time, the Dark Dimension may take center stage. A big part of what's fueling this theory comes from Multiverse of Madness's post-credits scene. After everything that went down, saving America Chavez, facing off against a corrupted Scarlet Witch, and using the dangerous Darkhold, Doctor Strange ends up developing a third eye. In the comics, this eye is tied to deeper magical awareness, allowing him to see into souls and pierce through illusions. But in the MCU, it's more likely linked to his exposure to dark magic, especially through the Darkhold. Then enters Clea, played by Charlize Theron. Clea is a fascinating character from the comics. She's Dormammu's niece, the Sorcerer Supreme of the Dark Dimension, and eventually becomes Doctor Strange's wife. In the post-credits scene, Clea tells Strange that he caused an incursion, a collision between universes, and that he needs to help her fix it. So it looks like Doctor Strange 3 will take us into that very mission, and with incursions being the spark that leads to Secret Wars in the comics, this could be a major stepping stone for the MCU's future. What's even more promising is that Cumberbatch himself confirmed in a recent interview that talks are underway about where to take the character next. He mentioned how Marvel is open to discussing potential writers, directors, and storylines. He emphasized Strange's complexity, describing him as a contradictory, troubled human with extraordinary abilities, and hinted that there's still a lot to explore. It certainly sounds like Doctor Strange 3 is happening, it's just a matter of when. It also makes sense that this movie could be positioned between the next two Avengers films, Doomsday and Secret Wars. Since Cumberbatch confirmed Strange won't appear in Doomsday, Doctor Strange 3 could serve as a narrative bridge, expanding on incursions and setting up the high-stakes conflict to come in Secret Wars. And if the Dark Dimension plays a big part, that would mean the MCU is finally ready to explore a much darker, more surreal kind of storytelling. And speaking of dark storytelling, there's another piece that fits surprisingly well. Thunderbolts introduced a game-changing character, Sentry, a hero with unimaginable power. But what's even more terrifying is his dark alter ego, the Void. This entity can trap people inside their worst regrets and has now become one of the MCU's most metaphysical threats. The Void isn't just another villain, it represents internal torment and trauma, much like Nightmare, another classic Doctor Strange enemy from the comics. The Nightmare Dimension, ruled by, you guessed it, Nightmare, is a place where fears take shape. While the Void traps people in guilt and memories, Nightmare traps them in their worst dreams. Since both these realms tap into psychological horror, it's not a stretch to think they might be connected. So, if the Void's surge in energy during Thunderbolts sends ripples into the Nightmare world, we might finally see Nightmare make his long-teased MCU debut in Doctor Strange 3. Interestingly, Nightmare was originally planned to be the villain in the first Doctor Strange movie. Director Scott Derrickson wanted to go that route, but Marvel ended up shelving that idea, for a while at least. Some elements might have stayed behind, like the idea that dreams could be glimpses into alternate realities. If Nightmare is finally introduced now, it would tie in perfectly with both Strange's exploration of other realms and the rise of powerful threats like the Void. Adding Sentry into Doctor Strange 3 could actually solve a major problem. His powers are so overwhelming that using him on Earth would make most battles too one-sided, But if Strange brings him into a different realm, like the nightmare dimension, then Sentry could let loose without risking the destruction of our world. That setting would also be an ideal space for Bob Reynolds, the man behind Sentry, to confront his inner demons in a tangible, visual way. He wouldn't just fight monsters, he'd battle the darkest parts of himself. This dynamic would also give Strange a chance at redemption. In Multiverse of Madness, he couldn't save Wanda from her spiral into darkness. Her grief, amplified by the Darkhold, pushed her too far. But helping Bob resist the void, or even separate himself from it, could be a chance for Strange to finally lead a fellow hero out of the darkness. That would mark real emotional growth for both characters, and the payoff could be huge. Plus, with Sentry's presence, Nightmare wouldn't just be another mystical foe, he'd be a manifestation of deep, shared trauma, affecting both heroes in different ways. That gives Doctor Strange 3 the opportunity to tell a deeply psychological story, using the multiverse and magic as metaphors for mental health and healing. It also fits the broader themes of the multiverse saga, which constantly explores identity, choice, and consequence. Now, in terms of the MCU schedule, there's still a mystery movie slated for July 23, 2027. With Avengers Doomsday pushed to December 2026 and Secret Wars delayed to December 2027, this mid-2027 slot is perfectly placed to build a bridge between the two. And considering how much setup Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness already gave us, Doctor Strange 3 seems like the ideal fit. It would have room to flesh out Clea's role, dive into the nightmare dimension, deal with the Void's consequences, and bring Strange to the center of the multiversal crisis. Financially, the numbers also support this idea. Multiverse of Madness brought in nearly $1 billion at the global box office, even without being universally loved. That kind of commercial success means Marvel would be smart to greenlight another Strange movie, especially one that builds toward their biggest crossover yet. Doctor Strange and the multiverse are clearly a powerful combo. Cumberbatch even teased this earlier in the year, saying Marvel has been open and enthusiastic about developing Doctor Strange 3. He mentioned there's potent stuff still to explore with the character, and with everything that's been brewing, Incursions, Nightmare, The Void, Clea, and Sentry, the story potential is massive. All things considered, Doctor Strange 3 might not just be a visually trippy solo film, it could be a crucial chapter in wrapping up the entire multiverse saga. From deeply personal character arcs to cosmic-level threats, the movie has a chance to do something that's both epic and meaningful. And if it really is the Mystery 2027 film, it's bound to bring Strange's story full circle, setting him up for one final showdown in Secret Wars, and possibly sealing his legacy as one of the MCU's most essential heroes. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Your suggestions for future videos are always welcome in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay in the loop. And if you want, you can share your thoughts about this video in the comments.